Hey everyone, my name is Vijay, and this is the first tutorial in a series of video tutorials on how to program in C++. If you don't know already, C++ is an extremely versatile language. It's used in almost every kind of application, including software, systems, games, etc. Now the IDE, or Integrated Development Environment, that we'll be using is Visual C++ 2008 Express Edition. Now if you haven't already gotten this, you can get it from the Microsoft website. Just Google this, and it's free, so you can get that. So all you really have to do is register it within 30 days, and you can register it for free. You just have to go to their website, click on that, and you just have to fill out a small survey. So once you do get it, we can get started. So go to File, New Project, click on Empty Project, then you can call it Test. Now my location is on the desktop, but you can put it anywhere you want. So now if you look on the left, there's something called the Solution Explorer, and right here you just made your first project. And it's contained within a solution, and a solution is something that can have multiple projects in it, but for now we're just going to have one project. So if you notice, in this project there are 3 folders: header files, resource files, and source files. So we're not going to worry about these two. Right now we're just concerned about source files. So right click on that, go to Add New Item, then select C++ file. And I'm just going to call it main. And now you made your C++ file. So now I'm going to type in some code. It's not going to make any sense to you right now, but don't worry. I'm going to explain all of it. Okay, so this is the bare minimum program. You're going to need at least something to this extent for any program to work. So I'm going to build this. And build succeeded. Now go to debug, start without debugging. And there's our program. It says hello world. It's very exciting. But, I mean, we're going to have to start that simple. So, let's go through this code line by line. The first line, include IOStream. What you're doing here is you're including the contents of another file. IOStream is a file that has all the information you're going to need to input and output stuff. And the number, this number sign, it denotes the preprocessor, which basically it means it happens before the IDE actually does the compiling. And compiling means it takes the code and translates it into the machine code, which then makes the executable. So the number, this part happens before the compiler actually goes, but you don't really need to worry about that right now. So include IOStream. So that gets the input-output stuff. The next line is technically a blank line, but the compiler doesn't care at all about blank line. That's just for us. It's to make the code look neater. So yeah. The next line is using namespace std. Now std stands for standard, not what you're thinking of. But what this does is your std is sort of like a zip code, and by using it you're basically qualifying everything that's within the std namespace. If you didn't have that, you'd have to qualify each and everything that you use separately. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. The next non-blank line is int main. Int is a data type, and there are several data types in C++, which I'll talk about in the next tutorial. Main is a function. So what a function does is it's something that has some kind of purpose, and the function is denoted by its name, then opening and closing parentheses, and you can have stuff inside of these parentheses, but we're not going to worry about that. I'll talk about that in a later tutorial. So just for now, just know that you have to have opening and closing parentheses. Then everything that's part of this main function is going to be within these curly braces. So opening and closing curly braces, everything in between is in this function. So this is the main function. So every C++ program has to have a main function. This is where everything starts, and it's also where everything ends. So the first line, cout less than, hello world less than, end line. So cout is a stream, and what this does is it's sending hello world to the cout stream, which then processes it and prints it out on the console window. An end line is a new line. It's a return. So you're also sending this to the output stream. So the reason you do this is so that if you did cout again, it would start on the next line, not on the same line. And finally, the second to last line is a return 0, and all functions that have an int, they return an integer value, and what return 0 means is basically that this program finished successfully and nothing went wrong. So that's why you have the return 0. I'll talk more about return statements when I do a tutorial on functions, but for now just know that you have to have that at the end of every program. So we already know what this does. It prints out hello world. So if I go to the folder in which I made the project, there's an executable, and if I run that, what happened is it opened the program, then did whatever it needed to do, and then closed. And we don't want it to do that, so we're going to add one more line. System pause, and then build that. Okay, so now what's going to happen is if I go back to that and run it, it adds a system pause. So it'll pause it and ask for a user prompt before it proceeds. And if you noticed, if you run it from Visual Studio, it does it twice, and that's because Visual C++ automatically does a system pause at the end of every program. So if you manually enter one, it's going to do this one and the built-in one, so it's going to do it twice. But outside of Visual Studio, it's only going to do it once. So now that we know how to do that, we can sort of play around with this. We can say, hello noob. Or we can even say, you win. Okay, so that pretty much wraps up this tutorial. In the next tutorial, I'm going to talk about variables, how to input, and how to process those variables so they can do what you want them to do. So that's pretty much it. I hope to see you guys in later tutorials. This is Vijay signing out. Peace.